All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We're going to show you this stuff. Tons of comic books. Going to the booth. Let me flip those bad boys around. All right. The lighting isn't on the products isn't the best, but we're gonna get there eventually. So nice little back issue for Avengers Fairy Tale. I actually wanted to save this one for later, but if you know what this is the first appearance of Taskmaster. Now, unfortunately, this is not in the best shape in the world, but it is, in fact, a first Taskmaster. So we have some more Silver Age goodness. This is, I have it written down. This is a Silver Age. This is Vulture versus New Vulture is what that is. Now, I think Marvel Tales or somebody did like a cover homage. I don't even want to say it's a cover homage because they literally took this cover and pushed it like a reprint, a facsimile. But this is the actual old one. This one here is another great key. This is Spidey's origin retold, I guess, in the Bronze Age. What's interesting is I think before 181, in the 170s, I think is the first appearance of Black Cat, which is like $1,000 book or something ridiculous. Some good Secret Wars. I firmly believe they'll do a movie on Secret Wars before too long, which I'm looking forward to. Another Secret Wars. Oop, I keep moving it, thinking that's the way to go. And it is not. Let me move this. So yeah, another Secret Wars book. This one is the first. Oh, this one's actually a larger key. This is the first cameo of the second Spider-Woman, Julia Carpenter, and she's real hot right now. I would not be surprised if we don't see her on the TVs eventually. She usually hangs it out with like She-Hulk and all those folks. So that's cool. Also, Death of Wasp in this one. Battle World. This is a cool cover. This is actually the issue where in Secret Wars they fight Galactus. Galactus is not the big bad in Secret Wars. So this isn't a key per se, but I think it's neat because Santa Claus is a badass. So that's pretty cool. I like that cover a lot. Some Bronze Age Spider-Man. This is just a back issue, but it's in high grade, so I figured somebody would want it. A lot of people like to fill out those issues. This might be kind of a spec book moving forward. This is the with everything that's going on in the MCU, even though admittedly I'm super behind. This is Avengers 262, and it says Namor joins the Avengers, and it's the origin of Captain America retold. So, obviously in the MCU, they find Steve in the ice, and that's kind of how we all understand the story. But in this retelling of the story, Namor, which is like the Marvel's Aquaman, and I apologize on the oversimplification of that comparison, but it is what it is. Namor actually takes credit for moving Steve's block of ice because apparently he knew he was there to warmer waters, meaning that the thawing out process was because of Namor. Now, Namor is kind of a different guy, and I think he was just. I have not seen the Black Panther movie where he makes his debut in the MCU, but Namor's a bad dude, man. Like bad as in he's kind of an anti-hero. Let's just say he's the character that makes the hard decisions, and hopefully they end up making that movie eventually where Namor literally decides to God, is that Crisis on Infinite Earths or is that DC? Anyway, I'm sure someone will. Basically what happens is the totality of our universe gets under threat from like a parallel universe, but it's not like the parallel Earth's fault, right? I haven't read it personally. I've just cliff notes and whatnot, but basically Namor, the decision has to be made: kill everyone on that other planet or everybody dies. But somebody has to do it. Like somebody has to hit the big shiny red button or whatever the case may be, and no one can do it because like their ethics and their morals, like they literally will have this stain of 1 billion souls on their that they'll have to live with for the rest of their existence. So no one can do it. Namor steps up and gets it done. So good or bad, I'll let you make the ultimate judgment on that. But yeah, cool character. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what they do with him on the MCU. So I hope my volume's loud enough. We'll have to look later. Anywho, so what's this one? Oh, this isn't possibly another spec book too. The new big bad is likely to be Kang, and I won't go too much into Kang right now because basically I think he's either a descendant of Stark or uses a bunch of Stark tech, but he's like from Force like millennia in the future or something, and he can time travel, and he's a big bad. He's hard to beat. So we'll see what they do. This is a 25th anniversary cover. There's a bunch of these, and I mean I think I even just put on eBay the Thor one. There's a Thor one. There's every single one. This one here happens to be the Nova one, which is really neat. Nova's probably going to get his own movie before too long too. So cool character. But it's the 25th anniversary border. I believe it's the 25th anniversary from like the first Fantastic Four that came out. So another good Avengers. This is a Secret Wars tie-in, high grade. I really do think they're going to do a Secret Wars movie. It's just such a cool, like, insulated storyline that you could do a lot with. And it doesn't affect canon, really. So, like, you see writers every now and then, they'll write themselves into a corner. And and then you have these, like, big reset events because they're like, oh, shit, I made this guy a god. How do I write stories for a god? So that's why we get comic resets every now and then. So, obviously, She-Hulk is hot. That's She-Hulk there. This also happens to be the first appearance of the Mesozoic Kang, which is a reptilian variant of Kang. And as you learn more about Kang, if you don't already know, there's a lot of variations. He's like the Rick, from Rick and Morty of the MCU world. Anyway, or MC. This is a really cool book, especially if you're a Thor fan. This guy here is Beta Ray Bill, which did have a cameo in I think Thor 2 when they go to to the battle world or with that dude with Jeffrey Goldblum. I always forget what his character's name is, but I love Jeffrey Goldblum. But this is the first appearance and origin of Stormbreaker. Now I know in the MCU Thor has this like big O sequence where they build Stormbreaker and they get the dwarves and whatnot involved. Not quite how it happens. In this, it's my understanding that Beta Ray Bill proves himself worthy of Thor. His job, if I remember correctly, is literally to protect the last remaining members of his species as they're on like a ship. Their home planet, I think Lactus came for it or something to that effect, or maybe it was something else. But Thor actually comes upon the ship and fights Beta Ray Bill. It's one of those situations where like they're both good guys, they don't know they're good guys, and of course they're big macho dudes and they can't just like use words to determine, or else you wouldn't have a comic book. So that's how these things happen. But ultimately, as I understand it, is that Odin and Thor were both so impressed, and I think Beta Ray Bill was actually able to pick up Mjolnir, which is obviously indicative of a being worthy, as it were. So they gave him Stormbreaker to give him the powers of Thor. So Beta Ray Bill then could use that power to protect his people. So cool storyline, cool character. I would not be shocked. He then shows up again, and I think in World War Hulk. But don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've seen and or read that. So here's another good Thor key. This is the first appearance of the Casket of Ancient Winters, which I know nothing about, which would be a good excuse to go nerd out on some stuff. So if you know about that, dude, give me the lowdown or link me a video. Okay, so Karl Urban's character, the Executioner, I really don't know a lot about the Executioner insofar as like what his actual comic book story is. Obviously, I know of the Karl Urban in the shows, but anyway, this is that. You can see him here with his machine guns, which is so cool. But he does die. He does die in this one. in this issue. So this is Thor 362. So super fun. And I have some really big not big keys, a little bit more expensive than these keys. These keys here range from anywhere from a couple of bucks to about $10. So, and those will be at the booth. But let's muscle through. We have Thor. This is not the first appearance of a 6'2" Battle Frog, but it is the cover appearance of it, which is really nice. I love to display this one. Thor did get turned into a frog for a while. Poor guy. So this one is not a key per se. There's nothing like, there's no like penultimate moment in there that would define it as a key. However, I just love that cover. And it's a high grade book. So this, I just think if you're a Thor fan and if you're displaying books in your space, this is it's a cool cover for the uninitiated, right? Like it's just neat. It's nice contrast. It's just, I like it. So I like this, so I'm putting it in the booth. If I like it, somebody else likes it. That's my rule. 300th anniversary issue. That's all that is. And again, another cool cover. I always dig Thor with a beard, especially as I'm getting old. So then we have, what's this one? This is the first appearance of Quicksand and the first appearance of Kevin Masterson, which is the son of Eric Masterson, who ultimately becomes Thunderstrike. So, cool book. Let me see it. Cool cover. Man, I like the covers. I think that's what attracts me to comics more than anything else. I mean, obviously the stories, I'm a book reader, and they're just shorter books, really. But the cover art is really fantastic, and I super appreciate it. So, this is the supersized 400th issue. Again, this isn't necessarily a key per se, but it is just a high-grade book, and I just totally dig that cover. Kind of reminiscent of Thor's first appearance because, it has the spinning hammer on there, but definitely not Thor's first appearance. All right, we got some random stuff here. We got the Funkoverse strategy game. As much as I'm into Funko and as much as I'm into Rick and Morty, I had never busted this out. It's unplayed. This is unplayed. This is actually from my personal collection. I'm just never going to get around to doing it. No one in my house is going to play it with me, which I don't blame them. We all have Xboxes and computers, so what are you going to do? Hopefully somebody else will enjoy it. Couple of books. This is a really popular book for the kids. I've not read it. So I thought this was neat. Kind of fits in with what we got going on here. Fantasy Freaks and Gaming Geeks. This one I almost kept, and I might list it online and not take it to the booth just so I can read it while I'm waiting to sell it. But it's War of the Robots. It's got a lot of Isaac Asimov in it. Who else is in it? Only $4. It's got Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, and I believe Arthur C. Clarke was the he wrote like 2001: Space Odyssey. Del Rey. I don't know who Del Rey is, but I'm getting confused with the publisher. Anyway, great book, 28 stories. Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke is really enough to make you want to read it. And here's some of the you can't even see, sorry. Anyway, some of the titles are Before the Electronic Age, First Robots, The Lost Machine, Rex, Robbie, Farewell to the Master, Robots Return, Though Dreamers Die. And these are all short stories, so this would be an easy read. So it's good to, read 20 pages, sit it down, let the the lessons of the story kind of sink in. So, plus it's a great cover. Can't go wrong with a great cover. This one, not going to say a whole lot about this. You either know what this is or you don't. It's Warhammer 40K. I believe it's the core rule book. So this is where you would start playing with the miniatures. And I've always wanted to do this, but but I don't have the patience. I have mad respect for those folks that can come in there and, paint the miniatures and all that. And of course, there's a larger game. There's tons of content. Actually, in the next show and tell, I don't have it in front of me. I have an $85 Warhammer paper book that I was shocked was as expensive as it was. But yep. So this is it. This would teach you and help you learn how to play the game. Kind of give you the basic rules. Kind of an introduction into the universe. The artwork is outstanding. And if you've seen these miniatures in person, like, mad respect. Like, the detail on them and just the effort involved. It's really remarkable. So kudos to you guys who take the time to do this. I have a old friend of mine. We don't talk too much anymore, but his name is Mark Nolan, and he actually sells Game Workshop stuff. He's actually a distributor for them. So super popular, and I think it's only gotten more popular, as the pandemic and and I'll say it out loud, even if nobody else will. This post-apocalyptic existence that we're in. Everybody else will catch up eventually, but the world's different, and we need to acknowledge that. It's not going back, friends. XBB. Yeah, you know me. Little epidemiological joke there. I can hear the laughter coming through the thing. Anyway, Dale Carnegie, I believe. He's a big deal throughout history, Dale Carnegie. I won't go into too much detail about him, but he was like the businessman of businessmen. He, I think he wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People, and he was just like the big business public speaker, motivational guy, before there were really like 80 billion of them. Alfred Hitchcock, Get Me to the Wake on Time, classic. Not in the best shape, but, great art. Great book. The Girl with Something Extra. It isn't easy being married to a girl who can read your mind. It's a great comedy series from the 70s, I guess. It wasn't funny anymore. Sally's gift to ESP could not decipher this message. And then it has like a bunch of gobbledygook. Was it a warning? A disguised plea for help? The only thing Sally did know was that she had inadvertently read the mind of a mysterious bank robber who was now threatening her very life. Dun dun dun. Drama. Anyway, so that's that. Classic Agatha Christie, The Tuesday Club Murders. Obviously a very prolific writer, Agatha Christie. She's literally, I think, probably read thousands, if not tens of thousands, but has written hundreds, if I'm not mistaken. The Jesus Factor by Edwin Corley. The atom bomb doesn't work. You don't believe it? You will when you read this novel of tremendous suspense. I read the back. The atom bomb doesn't work. Then how do you explain Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Read the book and find out. Edwin Corley, a brilliant storyteller, weaves a tale of such reality that at the end, you are convinced this story actually could have happened. So I guess maybe this is just a retelling of the event of us Americans dropping the bomb, which is probably, I know the argument is, well, if we wouldn't have dropped the bomb, there would have been so many more deaths. Brr, brr. Yeah. I'm not going to debate that, but maybe dropping bombs on people is not ideal. Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens. Just a cheap $2 little cover. Great cover. If you've not read this, it's actually quite neat. I haven't read it, but I had this huge Oxford collection of Dickens. I wish I had the photo handy, but it was a really nice set. I picked it up somewhere for $50. I think I shipped it to somewhere else for $150. Beautiful set. I'm glad I found it when I did, because it was going to hit the trash otherwise. And I paid up for it too. So don't throw away your stuff. I will pay for your stuff. Really think about that. This person was just going to throw it away, and now they've got almost $100 instead of throwing it away. Much better way to do it. But anyway, it's neat. It goes through, and it's literally a tale of two cities. And I just like the concept, because it's like the trope, right? Because how many things could you just, a tale of two cities now, like Republicans versus Democrats, what's good, what's bad. And I'd love to see a story that writes both and actually exemplifies what's great about both. I know it can sometimes, if you're sitting on one side of the fence looking over at the other side of the fence, it's hard to sometimes see the value in the other side of that fence, especially with current politics. But there is value, and we just need to find it so we can work together. Because we've got shit to do. The world's on fire. So, what's this one? Oh, this is neat. I might open this up for you. This is a Navy occupational handbook. So, it is my understanding. Actually, let me open it. My understanding is that, I guess, this is either jobs that you would do in the Navy or jobs that you could likely get after the Navy. Though I do not know. I am not in the Navy. Nor was I in the Navy during this time period. So somebody who's more military oriented, let's see. I guess I could read it. United States Navy Vocational Information Brief. I guess so. It's jobs. It's jobs within the Navy itself. So these are like the things that, like, you know, if you go on a ship or whether you... Ooh, this little damage here. I'm selling this cheap. This is only like $2, so little damage is to be expected. But anyway, it actually has like a job description of each thing that you could do in the Navy at this time, which is kind of neat. Oh, a photographer's mate? What's that? Maybe I should take these out, not sell it, and frame a few of them. Like, what's a photographer's mate? Naval activities in peace and war are carefully recorded visually by means of motion pictures and still camera photographs. These pictorial records of historical and newsworthy events aboard ship and at shore stations are made by photographers' mates. How rad. Duties and responsibilities. Let's just... Man, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to lift it up. I'm old and my eyes aren't that great. Photographers' mates operate, maintain, and repair the various types of cameras for ground and aerial photographic work. Photographers' mates perform microfilm, photostat, copy, and news photography, mixing photographic chemicals and solutions and developing, printing, and finishing photographic films, and contact and projection films are also included in duties of his rating. Let's just check out the qualifications. This is what you needed to be able to do to obtain your Navy career number 58, the photographer's mate. Qualifications and preparation. Personnel should have normal color perception. That's fair. It should be average or above average in general learning ability. So you got to be a smart guy or slightly smart guy. An ability to use numbers and practical problems, which makes sense because, I am a professional photographer. I've been getting paid for photos for over a decade now. So I do consider myself maybe not the authority on these things, but authority on these things. And I will say that there is a lot of math in photography. Like you wouldn't know that just by picking up a camera and snapping it. But when you're on site and you gotta calculate intervals and you got people watching you and the light isn't quite looking the way that you want, there's a way to approach it mathematically to achieve your goals. And sometimes it's easier to get what's in your head out of your head if you know the math and the physics behind how light wraps things, how it flex, apertures, depth, all that different things. But it is a nerd, and I used to do reciprocals, which is like you can have an exposure that's 1/160th of a second at f8 ISO 100, and that is the same as 1/160 over f11 at 200 ISO. It's the exact same exposure. So mathematically, lighting-wise, it's going to record the same on the sensor. However, the depth of field is different and all sorts of stuff. So the shutter speed also dictates certain things. So like photography is this beautiful, chaotic mesh of variables both scientific and in the moment and artistic, that all have to come together in this like beautiful dance of chaos, that and then just one moment there's order, and that's your photo. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I really like photography. It's really neat. But personnel should have, we read that already. Personnel selected for duty as aerial photographers must meet the physical requirements for aviation duty. School courses in physics and chemistry are desirable. Experience in photography as a hobby or as a job is very valuable. So, yeah, I could do that. That'd be fun, too. I mean, fun. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to war or anything like that because that's not fun. But it would be important to document all that stuff. And I'm sure they have these types of people today. So anyway, that's neat. Let me put that back in its container. In another life, right? In another life. Maybe if I had a chance to redo this whole thing, I'd become an Army photographer or a Navy photographer. So this is just a cool print type thing. Somebody will frame that like in an 8.5 by 11 frame and display it. It's really neat. It's the AV-8B from McDonnell Douglas. Is what that is. All right, let me put all this stuff back. All right, we have a newspaper and a stack of books, and then I'm going to show you the nicer comics that are, I don't know if they're going to hit the booth or they're going to hit the online store. Let's actually show you that online store right quick. So obviously we have the Town Square Antique Mall. Hold on. No. Oh, this is our site. So here's Ashley's new keychains that just went live. Here's our feature product. I look like this guy. His name is Jesus. Walking Dead. He's like a karate dude. I like him. Here is the new bookmarks that she just did. And these things are neat. Like what you do is you take the feather part and you put it actually in your book, and then like this dangly bit hangs out the book, which is really cool. So, and you can match your bookmark to the color of your cover, which is really nice. I like a lot of these. I think she's going to make a bajillion of them. So these are the first 12, I guess that is. 4 times 3. Anyway, I was going to show you something else and I can't remember. So let's go back to this. So, as a brown guy, I might be a little bit more familiar with racial topics than some folks, but it's a thing, and it happens at home. And so this is a newspaper from 1949. What I'm about to show you, and it's from the St. Louis Globe-Democrat. And a lot of people don't know that there was race riots in St. Louis. It's a whole lot of stuff that went down right here in our backyard. We just don't really talk about it, and we don't really. So like these things happen, like they happen. They've always happened. They continue to happen, and not talking about it isn't going to make it go away. So I understand that everyone has a lot of feelings about it. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm not saying that. Oh, because you don't share my skin color doesn't mean you're a bad guy. Just because I don't share your skin color doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. But we cannot ignore history. I do not care. Those of you who want to stop critical race theory, one, it's not taught in elementary schools. Number one. Number two, like, you need to know your history. Like, you're hamstringing people by not allowing them to understand how we've progressed as a country. Because if you don't know where we've been, how can you be proud of how far we've come? I don't understand the whole thing. And don't get me started on the book bans and whatnot, or else I might have to run for government, because that shit pisses me off too. So anyway, 2 stabbed in race quarrels. Fun. back to the lighter side of news. Hammer Slammer. It's a nice vintage sci-fi. Love, 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 love these old sci-fi covers. This is, I'm not overly familiar with who this is, but it's got Nazis. And Nazis getting beat up, so it can't be that bad, right? Nazis are bad. Nazis are bad. Even though I'm curious, will Russia and what's going on in Ukraine, if the stuff out the genocide and the people being killed in the streets and whatnot, will we start to see this zeitgeist change, like Nazis being the big bad to like, some other thing being the big bad, even though it's hard to compare with what the Nazis were able to accomplish. It's like that scene in Harry Potter, like when Ollivander is talking to Harry about Voldemort, and he says, that Voldemort was a great wizard. He was great. He did terrible things, but he was great. Like, just that he was able to accomplish was a lot, is what that is, even though it was terrible and bad. So anyway, you got to know your history so it doesn't repeat. Speaking of history, nice Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises. I've not read this one. I just now read Old Man and the Sea not too terribly long ago. I liked it. The whole man versus nature, the whole old man still getting it done, and I'm 40. I'm not quite as old as the gentleman in the book. But honestly, the book just made me sad. I just wanted to give that old dude a hug. And if you've not read the book, then I'm not going to say much more than that. But some Faulkner. Speaking of Faulkner, I did just read Children's Crusade or Slaughterhouse-Five. Wow. Like, wow. Probably one of the best books I've ever read. If you've not I've not read Sound and the Fury, which is another big Faulkner. Or is that Vonnegut? You know what? I'm talking Vonnegut, not Faulkner. I don't think I've read any Faulkner. I take everything back I said. But I know he's great. I will read, I think Sound and the Fury, I think is by him. I know that's on my list. He wrote a bunch. I think he wrote a lot about Mississippi, like where he grew up. Anyway, I'll look at that later. Another wonderful, beautiful sci-fi. Love, 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 love. This one, I actually almost kept this one because this has got a Ray Bradbury novel. And I might still do that. And plus, I really, really, really... It's like Cortana in the 70s. Halo reference. So. Salinger. We all know this one. Hell, you probably literally read this copy in school because this is what they gave us, if I remember correctly. Those of you who don't know anything about this story, it is one of the... People do say it's one of the better books ever written. I read it. I liked it. I'm glad I read it. It was about an ADD kid. It's what I kind of got the gist. It was like a coming of age story about a young man who doesn't quite fit in anywhere and just kind of shows how his life just kind of, we come into his life kind of on a downward slope, and then just he kind of goes through some stuff, and then he kind of comes to some realizations. And I don't want to go too much in it. I do think everyone should read this book. I think this book has been banned and attacked a lot. I don't understand why at all. As far as books read, I thought it was pretty tame. But hey, what are you going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I'll buy 350 copies of it and leave it around town. Keep banning books. Keep banning books. Hell hath no fury like a nerd who can't get his books. Another one of my favorite authors, Piers Anthony. He's written a ton, but what I was introduced to him was his Xanth novels. Very punny. This predates Xanth, I believe. It's about the macroscope, and just reading the back of it is kind of neat. Existence is full of a number of things, many of them wondrous indeed, and those are the things of this soaring novel. First among them is the macroscope, a doorway that leads to all time and all space, and confronts the four who dare enter with the challenges mankind has never dreamed of. Among the things the travelers find is a place so unthinkably distant in space and time that it may in fact be at the other end of the continuum. The continuum. A place where ancient symbols come to life and battle with the souls of men. So, Piers Anthony is a great author. I will probably find I like to read hardcovers because I destroy paperbacks. So I will wait to read this, and I've got a really long TBR right now. But this is on my list. This whole series, I think there's 3 of them. Maybe not in a series, I don't know, but like similar in tone. But of course, the Xanth stuff is fantastic. So like Magic Kingdom for sale and all that stuff. Nightmare. Anyway. Another classic, Bridge to Terabithia. I cried at this one. Just be ready. It's a great story about imagination and kids, and it's sad though, but it's good. I think one of my favorite quotes in cinema is from Vanilla Sky. The guy in Vanilla Sky says repeatedly, "The sweet isn't as sweet without a little sour," and that's all contained in these pages. This is an adventure. These pages here. So, good luck with that. Ooh, another Heinlein. Heinlein is one of my favorite sci-fi authors ever. He wrote Strangers in a Strange Land. Anything that I love sci-fi because it makes you get out of your own head as far as humanity is concerned. You know, because we're on a particular timeline. Things have worked out in a specific way for the totality of humanity. And sci-fi just I love it because it just throws that all out. And you could just, what would the world be if evolution went this way? Or if, we talked about Hitler earlier. What if Hitler was a successful painter and decided not to kill everybody in the whole world? You know what I mean? Like, I want to read that story. And so Heinlein, I really think can give us those kind of stories where not necessarily the Hitler thing. And I don't even know if Heinlein's right. He might not even be alive, but, it's just neat. It's just neat. He kind of gives us things that are not, sci-fi, but in just such a kind of way that you can't help but go, I wonder. So anyway, Prince and the Pauper. This is a Shakespeare. No, not Shakespeare. Mark Twain. Our Shakespeare. And so it's actually one of the few novels that he wrote that he's written that was set over still in like England and all that. I want to say that this started the trope of the whole switcheroo. Like, I believe this book or this play or whatever you want to call it is about the Prince and the Pauper trade places. So think like whatever that Trading Places movie was with Fred Savage and I think Judge Reinhold. Has it been that long? But anyway, that's where that trope came from. And they switch and they can't. And then what's the prince's life as a pauper? And what's a pauper's life as a prince? And I'm sure that wasn't the first time this kind of trope was told, but this sticks in people's heads because it's Shakespeare. Treasure Island, Robert Louis Stevenson, classic. A very apropos book for today's times. A lot of my favorite quotes come from Steinbeck, and Grapes of Wrath specifically. This book gets banned a lot, and because I think it really illustrates that. How do you say this? They didn't sell food because they couldn't make a profit, and they let people starve. That's what this book, to me, like, it's not about that, but it is about that. And I think that's why governments have come at this book sometimes, because they don't really want us to understand that it doesn't have to be this way, right? And anything that challenges the status quo, and this is why books are scary. I will acknowledge that books can be scary because books are based on ideas. And the idea that food should only be sold for a profit and what that impact has on normal people just trying to live their life is not to be undersold, I guess. And then, and especially as we go into 2023 and all of these things happen, who knows what's going to happen with our food? We've got the bird flu thing and the eggs. We've got the grain and all that stuff in Ukraine and climate change and blah, 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 blah. So I would not be shocked if you see a resurgence in popularity for this particular title, because I think we're about to go through some of these times. So, ooh, I'm a Debbie Downer on a Saturday morning, aren't I? Coffee. That's all right. More Dickens. Great Expectations. Great book. Classic. I've not read it, but it's on my list. Some more books. Lots of books today. Virginia Woolf. I've not read this one either, but classic author. War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. So I actually, in another life, I was a preacher. I don't want to say pastor, but preacher. And even though I probably did pastoral things. But anyway, I actually did a sermon on this book years ago. Gosh, I was still doing youth ministry at the time. And I was studying for the sermon, and I wanted to talk about how misinformation, and this was years ago before like COVID and stuff. So I've always been this way. Always. I've not changed, folks. I've not changed. But back in the day, this was based, and if I'm misspeaking, I apologize. I will always come back and correct myself if I realize I'm wrong. But it is my understanding that this was originally a radio show, right? And then sometimes, like, and they would come on and say, you know, this is fiction, this is, or maybe they didn't, I don't know. But anyway, in Missouri, as I researched, that there were actually like homesteads, farms, rural communities, not so much communities, but maybe individual farms that didn't understand that this wasn't actually happening. And then there were actually like people, I don't want to say people, maybe it was only one family, but they actually killed themselves and their children instead of being captured by the Martians. Because if you've read this, and I think Tom Cruise did a movie not too long ago, it would be terrifying. Like, it would be terrifying if you thought what was happening in this book was really happening, right? So people didn't understand. They couldn't separate fact from fiction. Or what if it was like a horrible scenario, like when the radio program starts, like for whatever reason, they would always miss the intro, right? And they'd always catch it like from the middle to the end, and maybe they don't go back after they tell you originally, or maybe they didn't tell them. I don't know. But either way, great book. Actually, I have some more H.G. Wells over there, but that'll be in the booth. This is a banned book, and I don't care. I'm going to put it in anyway. I will fight people all day long. We're not banning books. This is Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. This does discuss homosexuality and a journey of a young person. Through that journey, I can't tell you how many books I've read that have horrible endings, all because people weren't allowed to be themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I can't tell you how many books I've read where just one parent or one adult or one somebody or someone somewhere just needs to love this person and accept an individual. Like the Toni Morrison, The Bluest Eye, like not comparable to this situation in any stretch if you've read both books, but it's just, we need to calm down, I think. I understand that we don't want kids and stuff exposed to whatever. One, you're selling your kids short, and they have a world to live in after they're children, you know, so they're going to be not children way longer than they are going to be children. So let's prepare them for reality. And imagine if you're a kid and you are generally of an alternate, I hate even saying alternate sexualities, if sexuality can be alternative. It's the whole premise is just nonsense. But leave people alone. You know, let them read what they want. Let them express themselves what they want. I mean, as a person who's a little different, I'm not gay or anything, or not that it would be bad, but I know what it's like to be different and not to be accepted, and it's terrible. And every time I see someone come at someone for something that they don't get to choose, I remember. So every single one of you out there that's ripping on folks because of your religion, whether you believe that or not, it's not the way. There's still a human being involved. And I think some of you folks need to remember that. Thank you for joining my TED Talk. So that'll be in the booth. And it will be in the booth. And I'll fight you. Come cancel me. I can't be canceled because I don't have anything that matters to me that much except for the 4 people in my house. So TTYL, again, another book that's been kind of pushed back at. It's really interesting. It's told completely in text messages and Facebook messages and stuff. I've not read it. I did read the back, and there is kind of some heavier elements to the book. I don't know which parent where decided to come at it, but there you go. I'm going to sell it. So, TTYL, talk to you later for the uninitiated. So maybe it has to do with suicide. I'm not sure. Getting there. We're going to go through these books, and I might try to play a little more Call of Duty now that I'm a little bit more awake. Anyway, Shadow of the Hegemon, Orson Scott Card. Another author that changed my life in a lot of good ways. Ender's Game, Ender's Shadow. Speaker of the Dead. Great stuff. Love that author. Hey, look, there's another one. I've not read this one, not 100% sure what it's about, but it had Orson Scott Card on it, so I picked it up for you guys. That's kind of how I pick out books to sell, is I pick out books that I personally think would be interesting and worth reading, and then I also do try to get outside of my own head and kind of try to understand what most people like as well. I'm not very good at that sometimes. Anyway, StarCraft. Do you know they made a DC comic about StarCraft? I didn't. I think that's Raynor on the front, or it could just be a Space Marine, but it's probably Raynor. Ooh, there we go. Neat. I have a Raynor somewhere. Here's my Raynor. His guns are somewhere. I'm gonna blow up the Protoss. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, StarCraft is a wonderful Blizzard game when Blizzard still was like awesome. Lost many evenings to StarCraft and Warcraft and the whole deal. I say lost. I didn't lose them. I had a great time. Almost done. We got Oz, because there is a huge literary universe around Oz. Another sometimes banned book. This is generally left alone at this point. I think they ban it because, like, she talks about something about being 15 and a girl, and, you know, I don't know. Definitely not the takeaway from this book, if that's the case. There's a little bit more going on in that young lady's life. Life of Pi. I have not seen the movie nor read this book, but I know people like it. Then we have, this is a good one. There is a huge universe of Conan. There are pulp magazines, there are books, there are comic books. Obviously, most people have seen the movies and Arnold. Conan actually recently made a resurgence. I want to say he came back to, I think they released Savage Sword of Conan. What was it? In 2016, 2018, somewhere in that range. It was before the pandemic. Anyway, like, he's part of the Avengers, at least in one or two storylines, as I understand it. The Fault in Our Stars, a very popular book. I think this is about a young lady who has a terminal illness and has given a short reprieve from the terminal side of the illness. Ultimately, it's kind of one of those things, like the medical procedures are buying her time, but ultimately not fixing the problem. So she's still on the way out, and she's like, and what's that journey, right? What's that like to know that you're going to die, like sooner rather than later? Like, what do you do with your time? What's important, you know? And that book kind of goes over those heavy themes. And I know death and all that stuff is not something that when I used to, at my previous incarnation, I like to talk about death and dying and all of that stuff. It's sad, but it's part of what's going to happen to us, right? Like, we're all going to die. Sorry. Like, it sucks, but we have to, I think the sooner we come to terms with that fact, the better able we're to live our lives now, because you have to understand that the context that there may not be a tomorrow. So what are you going to do today? Right? Don't waste time. Like, love hard, play hard, work hard, experience things, because one day this is all going to be over. And that's the takeaway. Like, the fact that we're going to die shouldn't sadden you. And even though it is sad, it should sad. Like, I can't say that we shouldn't. But ultimately, the takeaway is you should be invigorated, right? Because there's a limit. You know, it's like playing your favorite video game, but you only got 20 minutes to play. You're going to play the shit out of that 20 minutes, right? So why isn't life different? Why do people get hung up on stupid stuff, you know? and I just move on. But we're all so sad, but this is one of the way. Like if you're someone that struggles with mortality, and I'm not saying I don't like get sad about it and stuff. I'm not like it's some inhuman weirdo or something, but maybe these are your kind of books. You know, maybe this is, you know, hearing the stories about what it might be like might help you when it's your turn to go through that, to approach it with grace and one of my favorite quotes is the man who plants a tree knowing that he'll never sit under the shade understands life. So like, what are those kinds of things that you can do to better the next generation or to plant that tree for someone else, you know? So anyway, back to comics. 100 Bullet Samurai. I don't know too much about this series. Ooh, I'm running out of space. Hold on, let me get organized here. Ah! I have stacks of books everywhere. All right. Going to the booth, 100 Bullets Samurai. Like I said, I don't know too much about this. I've not read it. I'll probably read it real quick before I put it in the booth. Now you know why I sell books, because I read half. Well, not, I can't even say half. Some of you might believe me. But I do read at least flip through a good chunk of, especially the comic books, because that's a little bit less of a commitment. I do kind of have a tendency to flip through stuff. I like to learn random things. This is cool. Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. This is a little puffin book. I want to say this was printed in the United Kingdom. It's interesting because the title is different, right? We know this is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But they changed the name for the American audience. And they do this all the time. Like the movie Clockwork Orange or the book Clockwork Orange, especially the movie, Kubrick, like, let it end sad. The book has a whole nother chapter. So the Clockwork Orange that you see in the movie isn't how the book ends. So there's changes like that all the time. Also, probably the most well-known one these days is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Well, the original book was not called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It was called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So the first print, first edition Harry Potter is actually the United Kingdom print. I'm pulling it up on YouTube right now so you can see it. Dude, not YouTube. The eBays. The bays of the E. Harry Potter. And it's an insanely expensive book. Oh my God. Unless it's gone down. I know JK is having, apparently she's a turf or whatever that is, and I guess it's not terribly expensive. Let me see here. I'm pulling it up. Computer screen. There we go. So yeah, so this right here is the United Kingdom cover. Obviously, those of you who are into Harry, yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Fourth print. So much. $33,000. So books are no joke, man. There's some serious books, man. So anyway, the point is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone as opposed to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Sorcerer, is it apostrophe S? Anyway. Dun-dun-dun-dun. This is kind of more the vibe. So, because Americans don't know what a Philosopher's Stone is. So they were worried that when Harry Potter came to the American audiences, where obviously it effing exploded, they were concerned, as I understand it, that that we wouldn't know what a Philosopher's Stone was, because it has to do with alchemy and there's old stories. So they changed it. They changed the name. And now it's the Sorcerer's Stone everywhere because of the movies. And I'm out of coffee, so we got to hurry up. So anyway, that's what they did to this book. I think we're on the good comics now. All right, so these are some more expensive books. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put them in the booth or I'm going to sit on them for a while or what I'm going to do. Because going into the MCU the next season, it's my understanding that Kang, they're kind of setting up Kang, right? They have the Time Variance Authority. They have all this different stuff. So this is all spec. But let's see what we got here. What is this? This, speaking of Time Variance Authority, this right here is the first cameo of the Time Variance Authority. So as Loki continues in seasons, which I hope they do, Tom Hiddleston is the shit. Time Variance Authority is going to continue to be a thing, and if they get a movie with Kang, because maybe they come in and help stop Kang or something, you know, and then you've already had and then you have multiverse anyway. So it's like a $40 book, and this is high grade. So, but I don't know if it's, you know, there's a lot of people that are going to want this already, but I don't know if I hang on to it and wait for a better moment, you know, a spike. I don't know. What's this one? Oh, this one's really cool. Not this one. Yep. This is Thor 390, guest starring Captain America. This is that moment in the movies. Now, it didn't happen in the book the way it happens in the movies because they're different. But that moment in Ultron, Avengers Ultron, where they're kind of all sitting around the thing and they pick up the hammer, and then like Captain America, like Steve Rogers can move it a little bit. Well, if he can move it, he can pick it up. Like it's to my understanding, it's not an you either can or you cannot. Like, so this is the moment in comics. This is the book where Captain America wields Mjolnir for the first time, which is just freaking rad. I might actually keep this one. This is it's so hard to do this job sometimes. I want to keep it all. But high grade, it's fantastic. Wonderful book. Really cool. So this one I'm probably going to go ahead and sell, though. God, it's so nice. I like that cover, too. But this one's cool. That's Kang. Wonderful cover. This is Avengers 267, high grade. Not a 9.8, but you know how that goes. This is the first team appearance of the Council of Kangs, the first appearance and death of a Kang variant that actually killed the Avengers in another timeline. So Kang is like a threat, like a serious threat. First appearance of an unknown Kang and Kang robots. And so this is one of the ones I don't know. Like, is this gonna spike when the movies come out, or when Kang becomes more official and when people kind of understand more about Kang? Because everything works on supply and demand, right? So there's that. Here's another cool one. Sticking with Avengers. This is the first appearance of Nebula. Yes, which Guardians of the Galaxy Nebula, like the mean angsty chick who kind of has a redemption arc, this is her first appearance in actual comic books. So this is a great key. And it's interesting because if you look at the MCU, like the way that story happened in the comics is not the way that happened on the movies. In the comics, and someone can yell at me in the comments if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that Nebula is actually the one that kills Thanos and gets the gauntlet, and is kind of like her redemptive story arc ends with her being the one that stops her dad. So in the movies, like he treats her poorly, but in the comics, it's worse. Like he had it coming. Like yay for her standing up for herself and all that. So this is not a real popular character. This is another spec book. It is the first appearance of the villain Spot. Now, I've not read anything about him, but it kind of like it just from the art, it looks like he is like a Portal 2 guy where he can like throw portals on stuff and then like jump into the portal like a Rick. Or like I said, Portal, the video game where you have the orange portal, the blue portal, and that kind of thing. But the character's name is Spot. He is, I guess he was into the Spider-Verse. I'm not a huge Spider-Man guy. But apparently he's also going to be in the third movie. I don't know if he's going to be the big bad or if he's one of the mini bads or like if it's, like an ensemble crew of villains kind of thing. So there's that. And then I'm going to show you this last thing. And I think I'm going to wrap up the video with this because I got to pack all this stuff up. The booth opens in about 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and I got to have some breakfast. So, but I do stock the booth probably once to twice a week. I think before I go up to the booth, I'm going to hop on and do one of these lives just as an excuse to kind of go live and show off some stuff. And I'm kind of more set up now. Hopefully I've got it dialed in. I'll look at this video later. I probably won't start off with Call of Duty stuff again. I might just jump right into this stuff. Maybe I'll go game on Twitch. But anyway, Swamp Thing number 1. So good old Bronze Agey book. It's in relatively high grade. You got a big crease up here, and you got some. This is probably 6.7, 6.70, maybe even a little higher. Yeah, you got some color breaks and stuff over here. I don't think it needs a pressing. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got like probably 10, 12 ticks. Anyway, it's pretty, isn't it? So that's that. This is not going into the booth. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with this. I might send this off to get graded because it is a little bit higher grade, or I might just sell it raw. I'm not like I grew up watching Swamp Thing on TV, but I will say that the Justice League Dark is being heavily spec'd on right now as well. But I don't care about that stuff. I just want to get stuff in and out. So I don't know if I'm going to keep spec books. I have to decide. But this would be that because they are going to. I know John Constantine, Keanu Reeves apparently is going to redo that character as I understand, which is freaking great. Now Constantine's my man. I like that dude. I actually have his. Check this out. You know what? I'll save that. But I actually have the first appearance of Constantine up there. That's a nice book. But anyway, I'm rambling. I love your faces. I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with me on a Saturday morning and as I got through my first cup of coffee. So again, the booth is at the Town Square Antique Mall in Wentzville. If you see anything in this video, I know it's early and it's going right up to the booth, but if you didn't, and I will try to put photos of stuff so I can set stuff to the side. But it's either going to be in the booth or on our website, which again is Stash Collectibles TV. And I believe we do accept offers on items on the site. I don't know why it's not showing up in this one here, but so like this is a really cool thing we found the other day. Ooh, it's not working. Normally there's a there is. Okay, so you can make an offer on these things if I've got something listed and you're like, nah, brah, you're nuts. I just want to sell the stuff. So like obviously I need to make money and things of that nature. So don't kill me. But yeah, I want to get the stuff gone because I'm a little ADD and the longer I have it, the more likely it is I'm going to break it. So buy it from me so I don't break the cool stuff. I used to piss off people with how hard I am on things, but I'm trying to be better. Also, a lot of the books, yeah, you'll see a lot of bundles. This actually sold the other day. I got to take that off. I do sell a lot of bundles, but also if you see a bunch of stuff on here that you're wanting, happy to make deals. And I have so much more to list. Anyway, love your faces. Ashley might be on at some point today to talk about, or tomorrow, whenever she's feeling up to it. About her bookmarks, which I do think that are just wonderful. But I didn't want to steal her thunder on that. I'm going to let her show you guys all that in great detail. But I did want to let you know that it did exist, and they are rad. We don't have any of these in the booth yet, but we likely will. So, yeah. I like Penny for Your Thoughts. This is my favorite one. I'm not going to lie. Penny for Your Thoughts seems a bit pricey. Anyway, that's all I got for real. I'll catch you guys when I catch you. Click.